Hello everyone, this is Gavin from Team Mega Summon. My apologies for not uploading in a long time. The reason is I had my wisdom tooth removed and I needed time to recover, and there's been some shifting within the team and I've officially taken over as leader. Now today I want to bring you a new deck profile after a long time. It's going to be of Valkyries, one of the decks that I finally managed to complete, and it took a long time to do so. So I really hope you enjoyed this, guys, and let's get into that intro. So here we are, everyone, with this new deck profile at long last. It's gonna be Valkyries. Valkyries are a deck that I've been working on for a long time, and I've finally got a consistent build thanks to new support that has come out. So I feel it's finally time to profile it for you guys. So here goes. Now what you need to know about Valkyries is that they're a going second deck, a very aggro based deck that focuses on bringing out as many Valkyries as possible, and then OTKing with the use of Mischief of the Time Guns. So this is my own personal build, and well, you can basically go off from within. So we'll start off with 2 copies of Valkyrie Brunhilde. Valkyrie Brunhilde is the best Valkyrie monster in the deck. Unaffected by spell cards, and when the Valkyrie monsters are attacked, you can make this card lose 1000 attack defense points in order to stop Valkyrie monsters from being destroyed by battle this turn. So it protects all your Valkyrie monsters for a turn. And this card gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent controls. So if your opponent has 5 monsters, this card gains 2500 attack points, and that's a lot, like a lot. This is definitely the best Valkyrie monster in the deck, or at least the most powerful one. 2 off, you can play 3 if you want, but I find 2 to be just fine. 3 copies of Valkyrie Dritte. Valkyrie Dritte is the searcher of the deck. When it's normal special, you can add a Valkyrie card to your hand. And this can be any Valkyrie card. It can be a Valkyrie monster or Ride of the Valkyries. So, and Ride of the Valkyries is essential to the deck, so definitely 3 copies of this card. If this card gets negated, then that's really bad. You want to bring this card out as fast as possible. She also gains 200 attack for each of your opponent's banished monsters, so keep that in mind. And this card does a lot of banishing from your opponent's graveyard, so that's greatly a possibility. Best thing is to bring this out and then get Ride of the Valkyries and then just blow your field full of Valkyries so you can take down your opponent as fast as possible. So 3 of the Searcher. And then for the new cards that we received, 3 copies of Valkyrie Seste. This card is amazing. It's definitely a centerpiece of the deck, and you want to get to this card as fast as possible. Her effect is very simple. When she is special summoned, you can special summon any Valkyrie monster from your deck. So most of the times you will want to bring this out by special summon and then special summon Dritte, therefore getting you an extra summon, plus then still have a normal summon. And otherwise you can use it to defend yourself by means of Celestial Transformation, Ride of the Valkyries, or Valkyrie Vierte, the newest support card. This card is really what Valkyries needed and gave even more consistency. This card really gave the deck a consistency boost. She also has another effect where you can send the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. Very out of the blue, but it's a very good effect. Just make sure your opponent doesn't have any mill decks like Lightsworn or Burning Abyss. Definitely a card that brings more consistency to the deck, and which is something the deck really needs. I'm really curious to more support because it's getting more support, which is why I'm so fond of the deck as it is. 2 copies of Valkyrie Vierte, the other new released Valkyrie monster for the support. Vierte has an effect on when she's on the field. You can excavate the top cards of your deck equal to the number of other Valkyrie monsters you control. So if you control 2 Valkyrie monsters, then you can excavate the top 2 cards. She doesn't count other Valkyrie monsters. And if there is a normal spell in between those cards, you can add to your hand and set the rest to your graveyard. If there's no normal spell in between them, you can shuffle those back into the deck. And when this card is destroyed by battle, you can special summon a Valkyrie monster from your deck, which is really good. So you can go special summon your Brunhilde, your Zwei, your Dritte, or your Sexte, because then Sexte's effect will trigger and special summon another Valkyrie, giving you more defensive options. And this is very good for going first, because going first is something this deck doesn't want. You always want to go second, but in the case you do go first and have this card on hand, you can set it and potentially defend yourself if all things go well. And plus her effect goes really just well with it. Really a great piece of support. Next up we have 3 copies of Valkyrie Zwei. When Valkyrie Zwei is summoned, you can destroy 1 monster on the field. It does target, which is unfortunate. And when she is destroyed, you can add a continuous spell from your graveyard back to your hand. But we don't really play continuous spells, aside from the goddess cards. So it's really not necessary. But Zwei is just really good for destruction and capabilities, and with Drive the Valkyries, bring her out. I feel like a 3 of her is just perfect. complement that with Valkyrie Öste. Valkyrie Öste's effect is when she special summons a spell card, you can add a mystery of time goddess from the graveyard back to your hand, which is really good. And a quick effect is when you have another Valkyrie monster on the field, you can remove one monster from your opponent's graveyard and this card's attack becomes the same as that monster's attack. Really good for clearing out your opponent's graveyard of problematic monsters, which is just a really good way in case your opponent gets to Counter-Strike. And especially using this against ABC is a good thing, because then they can't make their ABC Dragon Buster. So a really good card in general, but I only play 2 of because, well, 3 of seems a little bit too much and that gets really cloggy. And to round off the monsters, 2 copies of Honest, because, well, this is mostly a light based deck. And if you go first and have this in hand plus a Valkyrie monster in the field, you can protect yourself and otherwise go over big problematic monsters you otherwise wouldn't be able to go over. So, that's for the monster lineup. It's not a big monster lineup, but it really isn't necessary in this deck, mostly because this deck just focuses on bringing out a quick OTK potential. Now, for the spells, we have 3 copies of Ride of the Valkyries. This is the centerpiece of the deck. Ride of the Valkyries is absolutely necessary at 3. With this card, you can special summon as many Valkyries with different names from your hand as possible, but all your monsters return to the deck at the end of the turn this card was used. When this card is graveyard, you can banish it to add a Mischief of the Time Goddess from your deck to your hand, which ultimately makes the OTK that this deck can pull off absolutely right. Definitely a free off. It's just a centerpiece of the deck, it's just really great. And a good way to follow up is, of course, with 2 copies of Mischief of the Time Goddess. You can play 3 if you want. I only play 2 because that's, I feel, is about enough. I mean, I would play 3, but I can't really get a 3rd. But 2 just works as well. Mischief of the Time Goddess is, if you don't know what it does, it basically after your battle phase, at the end of the battle phase, you can activate this if all you control are Valkyrie monsters, and then you can immediately go to the next battle phase of your next fight. So basically you skip your opponent's turn and go for it. This is what makes the OTK live, which is absolutely great. Ride the Valkyries you can instantly. And due to its effect, even if your opponent manages to survive their OTK for whatever reason, your Valkyries won't return to your deck because it's considered the end of the next turn. So Valkyries won't return and won't go away, which is why this card is so absolutely great. It's absolutely no decay enabler, the best card in the deck. So these are the centerpieces of the deck. We go for the goddesses. 3 copies of Goddess Skull's Oracle, 2 copies of Goddess Verdantin's Guidance, and 2 copies of Goddess Earth's Verdict. Why I play this is mostly just for a backup strategy, and plus it's just really a lot more fun. Skull's Oracle, when you activate this, they all have an effect of, if you activate them while you control a Valkyrie card, you can search a corresponding card. Activate this when you have a Valkyrie, search this. Have a Valkyrie and activate this, search this. Yeah, so basically have this in your hand and a Valkyrie monster you can already search out. Skull's effect is look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and rearrange them in any order. For Dungeon's Guide is guess what type of card it is, monster, spell or trap, and if it's correct they must pick it up, look at it and set it on the field. Earth's Verdict, guess what kind of card it is, so exactly the card's name, like Bottomless Trapple for instance, that card is then banished. And Earth has an additional effect which says as long as you're on the field, Valkyrie monsters cannot be targeted by effects. Just a really optional play, really. It's not really the best kind, but I like it, it's fun, so why not give it a try. Then we play 2 copies of Final Light. Final Light is basically a soul charge for the deck, only without no battle phase restriction. You pay 1000 life points to summon in multitudes to summon Valkyrie monsters from your graveyard, so if you pay 2000 you get 2 Valkyries, but your opponent can then summon also monsters with 2000 or less attack points from their graveyard. Definitely, it's a great card. It works better if your opponent has no cards in the graveyard or you have, for whatever reason, robbed their graveyard blind. Definitely worth running at 2. Also, it doesn't restrict the battle phase like Soul Charge does, so it's just a better Soul Charge, but then only for Valkyries. 3 copies of Celestial Transformation. This is mostly used to special summon your fairy type monsters, and in Turtle it's great with Sexta because you can special summon Sexta and then get another monster to be special summoned, or Dritte in case you don't want to waste your normal summon and you want to search. It's definitely there for the best. It's mostly used for that, and it's a quick play spell so you can set it and then flip it when your opponent attacks to block an attack, and in most cases you will summon your Valkyrie Sexta with that, so it's mostly just used for that. 2 copies of Called by the Grave for against hand traps. Hand traps are dead drawn against this deck because if they manage to negate that one Surge of Drizzt then, or that one special summon of Sestit, then you're really screwed. You need that, so Call by the Grave is just a necessity. 2 copies of Pot of Desires. It's a bit of a risk to play this in this deck, but I just feel like I cannot run it without it, because you need to get to your centerpieces or your more Valkyries as soon as possible, so Pot of Desires is just necessary. And mostly you play 3 of every card, so you won't really miss too much. If it hits both your Mischief of Time Goddess, then yeah, then you can basically just scoop it up. And for the final spells, 1 Dark Hole for Mass Destruction, and since Brunhilde is unaffected by it, she won't be destroyed by it if she's on the field. And 1 for 1 to bring out your Sextet even further. Now we do have an extra deck, though we don't really go. The thing is with extra Valkyries, you don't really go into your extra deck that much. There's only a small occasion that you do. But I feel like it's just best to have an extra deck with you just for that. You can also play Pot of Indulgence in the deck if you have the budget for it, since you don't really rely on the extra deck. But I don't have the budget for it, so I don't play it. But if you want to play Pot of Indulgence instead, that's definitely fine. Now for the extra deck, 1 Big Eye because we have 2 level 7s, 1 Gauntlet Launcher. Because we have the level 6 Valkyries. Great about Gauntlet Launcher is it's not once per turn. You can detach an exceeding to destroy a monster on the field, and it's not once per turn. So, the Utopia package with the Lightning Hand number 39. 1 number 41 Bagushka. One thing, Bagushka, in case if you get 2 level 4s on the field, this card is just great because Bagushka can just stall out the game for as much as possible. And that's just a great thing about him. I played it against Blackwings. Blackwings just literally sat there and do nothing because Bagushka slumps him out. And 1 Tornado Dragon for Spell and Trap Card Destruction. 1 Borreload Dragon and 1 Borrelguard Dragon. I don't have Borrelsword, so I use Borrelguard as replacement. Borreload is just generic and just great in general, so it's definitely necessary for that. 1 Topologic Trisbina, 1 Gaia Saber Lightning Shadow, Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Cerberus, just for generic links. Hippo Shinigan, about the only link monster you would really get into because it gives you such an advantage, especially if you go first and it recurs resources. And 1 Underclock Taker because generic, and 1 Linkaribo because we do play Cessna. That was my Valkyrie deck profile. Let me know what you guys think about it. Also be aware of new content coming up and let me know what kind of decks you would like to see. We definitely have a lot of zombie decks because a lot of us played that. So if you want to see more interesting deck profiles and diverse looks on certain decks, let us know. For now I hope you enjoyed this video. Praise the Omega and have a wonderful day.